This is my anti-suicide sonnet. It's called Not to Brag. Not to brag, but I have never loaded my pockets with stones, never jumped from bridges over the river in fog, never set myself on fire in the face of razors, loaded guns, rooftops with sharp drops, lovely ovens with pilot lights I could easily smother. I've never tossed myself before a driver. Not to brag, but I've kept these bones. I've never died of shame, though I've fallen down in heaps of shame and wanted to die. Not to brag, but I get up at dawn, feed the birds, water the garden if it's dry, stand alone, not to brag, in the kitchen, make coffee, wash a cup, and I don't die. Okay, I'm going to read the shortest story from American Salvage, the newer collection. I have two collections of stories, and the newer one that got all the acclaim is about men. So that's what American Salvage is, stories about men and their troubles, which I've come to understand in my long life as a married lady. And but my first book's about women, so the book's kind of our companions. And this is kind of a brutal story. I've had people walk out during during my reading this story, I should say, but it resolves, just so you know, it resolves. Okay, this story is called The Solutions to Brian's Problem. Solution number 1. Connie said she was going out to the store to buy formula and diapers. While she's gone, load up the truck with the surround sound home entertainment system and your excellent collection of power tools. Put the baby girl in the car seat and drive away from this home you built with your own hands. Expect that after you leave, Connie will break all the windows in the living room, including the big picture window, as well as the big mirror over the fireplace, which you've already replaced twice. The furnace will run and run. Solution number 2. Wait until Connie comes back from the store, air quotes, distract her with the baby, and then cut her meth with Drano so that when she shoots it up, she dies. Solution number 3. Put the baby to bed in her crib and sit on the living room couch until Connie comes home. Before she has a chance to lie about where she's been, grab her hair and knock her head hard into the fireplace that you built from granite blocks that came from the old chimney of the house your great-grandfather built when your family first came to this country from Finland. Don't look at the wedding photos on the mantle. Don't let the blood stop you from hitting her one final time to make sure you've cracked her skull. Put her meth and her bag of syringes and blood-smeared needles in her hand so the cops find them when they arrive. Solution number 4. Just go. Head south where it's warm. Contact the union about getting a job with another local. Pretend not to have a wife and baby. When put to the test, Connie might well rise to the occasion of motherhood. Resist taking any photographs along with you, especially the photographs of your baby at every age. Wipe your mind clear of memories, especially the memory of your wife first telling you she was pregnant, and how that pregnancy and her promise to stay clean made everything seem possible. The two of you kept holding hands that night. You couldn't stop reaching for each other, even in your sleep. She lost that baby and the next one, and although you suspected the reason, you kept on trying. Solution number 5. There are 7 solutions. Solution number 5. Blow your own head off with the 12 gauge you keep behind the seat of your truck. Load the shotgun with shells, put the butt against the floor, rest your chin on the barrel, and pull the trigger. Let your wife find your bloody corpse on the living room floor. Let her scrape you off these walls. Maybe that will shock her into straightening up her act. Let her figure out how to pay the mortgage and the power bill. Solution number 6, call a helpline. Talk to a counselor. Explain that last week your wife stabbed you in the chest while you were sleeping. That she punches you too, giving you black eyes. You have to explain to the guys at work. Explain to the counselor that you're in danger of losing your job, your house, your baby. Tell her Connie has sold your mountain bike and some of your excellent power tools already. Try to be patient when the counselor seems awkward in her responses. When she inadvertently expresses surprise at the nature of your distress, especially when you admit that Connie is only 5'2". Expect the counselor to be even less supportive when you say, "Hell yes, you hit her back." Then realize that the counselor probably has caller ID. Hope the counselor doesn't call social services because a baby girl needs her mama. Assure the counselor that Connie is a good mama, that she's good with the baby. The baby is in no danger. Solution number 7. Make dinner for yourself and your wife with a hamburger in the fridge. Sloppy Joes maybe, or a goulash with the stewed tomatoes your mother canned. Your mother, who like the rest of your family, just thinks your wife is moody. You haven't told them the truth because it's too much to explain. And it's too much to explain that, yes, you knew she had this history when you married her, but you thought you could kick it together. You thought that love could mend all broken things. Wasn't that the whole business of love? Mix up some bottles of formula for later tonight when you will be sitting in the living room, feeding the baby, watching the door to the bathroom, behind which your wife will be searching for a place in her vein that has not hardened or collapsed. When she finally comes out, brush her hair back from her face and try to get her to eat something. So it feels like a hard story when you think he's going to do that stuff, the really bad stuff. So I'm going to do something a little different right now. And one of the stories in my book, the title story, is called King Cole's American Salvage. Like, this is the guy's nickname, King Cole. And it was a story that I wrote. First, I had written an essay about a real-life person who had gone through, it was a tow truck driver in my hometown who, everybody knew this guy. He was like kind of just one of those people everybody he can hardly drive down the road because everybody's waving at him all the time. So he's like driving like this with his hand up, and kind of a little fella. And then he got everybody knew though that he didn't like banks, so he carried money with him. I don't know if you guys know any of these people. You're real scared for him. Little guy with a lot of cash, and he got beaten up real badly. And so I did a real in-depth, almost kind of a journalistic story about his getting beat up. Because the good news is he recovered miraculously. So it's actually kind of a happy story. This guy recovered. He shouldn't have recovered. He refused physical therapy. They thought he was dead, and he came over at every level. He came through. So I wrote this story about a nonfiction story about him, and then I felt like I couldn't leave the material alone, so I wrote a fictional story, and then actually I wrote some poems about the same subject. So I thought it might be fun for those of you who are in writing to see my treatment, 3 different treatments of kind of the same material. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start with a page from the nonfiction piece. And I think that you'll see what the strength of the nonfiction piece comes from my telling you that this really happened. That this is a true story I'm telling you, and it seems important to it. Whereas when I read from the fiction piece, it comes across differently. So this is called Crimes. The nonfiction piece is called Crimes Against a Wrecker Driver. The Assault. On a Saturday night, October 19th, 2002, Henry Lanning and Chad Van Duzen, each 6 foot tall and over 230 pounds, pulled into Don York's driveway in a GMC Jimmy. They had an iron pipe and a roll of duct tape and gloves. Lanning got out and approached the house while Van Duzen stayed in the vehicle. York had heard the neighbor's dog barking, so he opened the upstairs window and turned on the outside light. Lanning shouted up that he needed a jump for a vehicle parked down the road. York, who is a trim man, 5'8", with shoulder-length white hair, did not know Lanning, but when he saw the guy was wearing brand new gloves, he felt something was wrong. He yelled down, "I'm in for the night," and he told Lanning to jump the car himself with the car he was driving. His house alarm system was already set, but after he closed the window, he loaded his shotgun anyway with 4 cartridges. That night and the next few nights, he slept with the shotgun in his bedroom. Chad Van Duzen was Don York's ex-wife's nephew, and Van Duzen had met Henry Lanning a few days earlier at the home of a mutual friend, and both men were absconders from parole. In Van Duzen's words, they both needed to hit a lick, which was to say they needed to make some money fast. However, the men gave up on York that night and went home, according to Van Duzen, who later pled guilty to conspiracy to commit armed robbery. According to the prosecution and key witnesses, Lanning returned alone 3 nights later with some rope and a busted-off tree branch the length and thickness of a baseball bat, and he hid in the trees outside York's house and waited. Don York was known to be a man who didn't like banks. Anyone who knew him knew he carried in his pockets rolls of cash from which he could peel off as many 20s, 50s, 100s as he needed. And he was rumored to keep his life savings in his house. Don York has always driven a tow truck, and for 25 years he has run his small junkyard just beyond the border of Comstock Township, where he grew up and almost graduated high school in 1967. At York's junkyard, you can buy tires, engines, radiators, starters, and alternators for American cars and trucks for less money than you can get them elsewhere. On the following Tuesday night, October 22nd, at about 8 o'clock, York pulled in the driveway, shone his bright lights on the front door so he could see to unlock it, turned off his alarm, and then went back out to his wrecker to get the pizza he picked up for dinner. The last thing he remembers is waking up in the hospital 3 weeks later.